welcome back to another Fireside chat. I finally got through reading Graystripe's Vow. Oh boy, it was so good. I've got a lot to say about it. Because I'm really loving the Broken Code arc. Honestly, I don't want to say that it would be my favorite arc in general right now because it's not finished yet, and Warriors has that problem where sometimes the last 3 books in the series tend to be kind of nothing. So I'm going to not say that it's my favorite yet, but it's shaping up to be. And the super editions that go along with it are no exception. They're wonderful. So I'm going to be doing a review and analysis on Graystripe's Vow, the book. I will not be doing a character corner type analysis on Graystripe yet. I'm sure I will soon, but I want to see right now where he's going in the Broken Code first before I say all my thoughts about his character. Of course, I'll be delving into that, but I'll say more on Graystripe as a whole later on. There will be spoilers for Graystripe's Vow, the Broken Code, everything. So don't watch this if you don't want spoilers. Just a warning ahead of time. I won't be doing with some books I do a little spoiler-free review. I am not doing that because at this point, you really need to be reading the Broken Code to understand Graystripe's Vow. It's not something you can just pick up. It's like an extra bonus story. So, if you don't want spoilers, then, just a warning. Anyway, let's talk about Graystripe's Vow. As far as what I noticed in the community, people are either really excited for this book because they really like Graystripe and wanted a book for him, or they were kind of like, oh, boy, not Graystripe. Well, I couldn't have been a more interesting cat. And I was sort of neutral. Like, I was actually pretty excited, but at the same time, I was like, he's an elder. How are they going to pull this off? And honestly, I was very much pleasantly surprised with how they pulled it off. It was wonderful. I really, really liked this book. So, I'm going to work through what I felt like were some good points. One thing I really liked about this book is, I'll talk about Graystripe himself first. Graystripe is such an interesting protagonist. And I read his graphic novel or manga book, and I didn't find him too particularly interesting, but it was a unique situation, so I was willing to forgive it. With this book, it was everything I wanted it to be about Graystripe's personality. It was just perfect. I love how Graystripe is constantly stifling a laugh. And he doesn't always say funny things in his head, but he definitely finds humor in most things. And he's so rational. I really love his personality. He's not perfect, but I love how he's funny, but he also sees humor in life. Unlike some characters that are really serious, he actually finds, funny things actually humorous. He doesn't find it irritating or things like that. And I really appreciate that. I thought that was a really good character consistency, because I think that's one thing that stuck with everyone from Graystripe in the first series was how Graystripe was funny. And I'm really glad to see that they were consistent on that. And despite all Graystripe's been through, he still holds on to that. So, good boy. He's so sweet. The book as a whole, I really appreciated that the journeying was kept minimal and it was sped up really fast, so you don't get huge chunks of the book spent journeying. I like that you're at that spot, so you can actually spend time at that spot and develop characters and spend time working through conflict. And I appreciate that a lot, because sometimes journey books can be all about the journey. That's my one critique, I think, with Tiger Heart Shadow, which I'll talk about some other time, is that a lot of the book content is spent on the journey. And I'm just like, okay, enough of this. Graystripe's Vow doesn't do that. They really do a nice job of, okay, let's go to the mountains. And then you're right there at the mountains. So it's not like this boring, long, many chapters of him and Flipclaw, walking and walking and walking. No, it really keeps that, minimized. So that way, when you're in the tribe, you can, there's conflict going on. And when he's in the old territories, there's conflict. It feels like he can get around pretty fast, but it's nice because then you actually get to spend time there. So I really like that. That was really good improvement on this writing, because this journey book doesn't feel like a journey book anymore. It feels like a really good book of growth. The other obvious thing that they did with this book that was different, that I thought was an interesting idea, and it's the one thing is I'm not sure if I want to consider it a success or not in this case. I'm willing to try this out if they did this again. I'm not sure I call it a success for this time. Is playing with the timeline, going back and forth. On the one hand, I like both stories. I was equally invested in both stories. However, there's one little problem, and probably my only critique, I think, with the book overall, as far as like narrative. Everything else was wonderful. I was very much engaged with it. But the one problem I would say that kind of disappointed me was that because you're going in the past, and that past is also connecting to the future event where he's in the old territories, there is a scene where he's trying to figure out if Gremlin, the Blood Clan Queen, is a good cat or not. Now, after the prologue, I was pretty sure Gremlin was a fine cat that he could trust. I was sure of that. However, just like, you know, the clans are talking about it, and Graystripe's doubting himself, so I began to doubt, well, maybe she wouldn't be trustworthy. I was pretty sure. But then again, you know, you just never know how this book could go. There's been betrayal in Warrior, so I was like, maybe. So I wasn't quite on board, but while Graystripe's in that indecision, in the present, he runs into Fang. And he makes a comment of how, oh, Gremlin was so trustworthy, and I should never, you know, I obviously had no reason to doubt her. She was wonderful and trustworthy, and I missed her so much. And I'm like, well, okay, I guess she is trustworthy. And it just felt then anticlimactic when he did find out that she betrayed Blood Clan and helped them instead and was trustworthy. It felt anticlimactic in the past because I knew from Graystripe in the future that she is. Now, I'm glad they didn't lie. Like, sometimes characters can lie to you on purpose to hide a secret. I'm glad that didn't happen, but at the same time, I feel like they could have maybe pushed a few time, like meeting Fang could have maybe happened later, or maybe there's less indecision time and it goes faster, so you know Gremlin's, like, you get that decision or something, or maybe they just tuck out that comment altogether. It's like my one critique is that I don't care for how that was handled, because it just didn't feel like a climactic point then for the past. Like, I was still interested, I was still invested, but I was just a little disappointed is all. It's honestly nothing in the whole scheme of things in this book. There's so much good in here. I just, one gripe. That's my one thing. I'd like to see them try playing with the timeline in other books in the future, because I would say that I think it kept the plot even more interesting. Because sometimes, like I said, even with journey books, things could get a little boring. If they do this in the future, I would be happy, because it actually breaks up the story and can leave you on two cliffhangers at once. Which, yes, maybe when you're reading one book with multiple POVs, that could be irritating. But with this, I actually felt satisfied with it, because there were very clear moments of climax and things like that. It felt really interesting, like, oh, what's gonna happen? But then you switch to present and you're like, oh no, and then something happens, you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? Then they switch and you're like, oh. It's like, it kept me engaged, at least, and I appreciated that a lot. I'd like to see them try that more. Like I said, if it wasn't that they spoiled it for me by, in the story, him stating that, I actually would have absolutely no problems with this book. I would say I love the time flipping so much, and I did like it. It's just, that's my only thing. Had that not happened, I would have been like, yes, I love this, they should do this more. Because I honestly would have, thinking back, I'm like, Squirrel Flight's Hope could have used some of that. Would have been actually interesting, at least in a little bit, to do that with. Because they kind of did, anyway. So, like, with the, you know, this isn't a review on Squirrel Flight's Hope, but basically, they kind of did that a little bit with, like, the prologue and, like, the comic kind of thing at the back. of the book. So I was like, it kind of would have been interesting if there would have been a few instances of that. But yeah, so I like this new writing tactic. I also really love getting an elder's perspective on things, especially if it's going to be Graystripe, because he's not a grumpy elder, so it's nice. But I also like him, having a wide spectrum of knowledge and skill, and even too, I think like there were maybe some of the themes in this book were inconsistent just a tad bit. I felt like there were two themes that played throughout the entire book. I know this whole talk is kind of going off in different tangents, but I'm just kind of dumping all my thoughts into one video, so. But like one thing I really appreciated was the consistency of themes. Like there were two themes. Yes, they jump around between them, but at least they kept them consistent through the whole thing, and you get resolution on both of them. So the first one, obviously, the book was called Graystripe's Vow. Well, we find out he didn't make just one vow. He actually made two vows. And the whole book is actually built up of different promises or pledges, quote-unquote vows, in the book. So not only does Graystripe make a vow to Firestar, which I also like too, because he actually makes it at the end of the book. So it's kind of interesting that it's not at the beginning like I almost expected that to be. But it's actually at the end, so I really liked that too. It kind of felt like it ended on that note, which I felt was more satisfying than if it started out that way. But the promises are a big point throughout this book. What, like how you keep your promises. And Graystripe made a vow to Gremlin as well to protect her and her kits, and he ends up helping Fang and says yes, he'll keep that promise as well. And and then Fang of course is like, I promised I'd let them out, like get the kitty pets out of the den. And it's a theme that is marked throughout the entire book that I found interesting, because sometimes themes and warriors can be lost halfway through or something, and this one I didn't feel like was watered down or lost at all. It was very present and had a nice resolution. The other theme that was very much in here was it was like usefulness, I want to say. That might be like the wrong term, but how, like, what part you play. Because Graystripe struggles in some ways with being an elder. And I think it's because he's young at heart. Like, he struggles with the reality kind of hitting him in the face of, like, he doesn't have Millie anymore. Most of his friends are dead. And he's kind of sitting there going, what's my purpose anymore? Especially when the young cats don't want to listen to him. He kind of thinks, like, why am I here? What am I good for? Am I just going to sit in the Elder's Den and just rot? Like, it's like, it's hard for him to come to terms with that. And he learns that, no, not only is he still a source of wisdom and skill, he's still got life left in him, and he still can be useful, and he can leave multiple legacies behind that, stretch through the ages, and that's much more than just him nearing the end of his life. He still can do that, even now. And he still has a part to play, which it ends on that kind of, I was in tears at the end, because it's like, I still have a part to play. I'm gonna go back, and I was like, oh no, this is too quick, it's gonna wrap up, and sure enough it did, so we'll find out, I guess, maybe in Darkness Within, or I don't know, some other book in the Broken Code. We're gonna find out what part that is. Hopefully they don't forget. Please don't, because I want to see what part he actually ends up playing, because I have a feeling I'm gonna cry. It's gonna tear me up. But I thought that was actually even a more solid and heartfelt theme throughout the book, was finding your place and your legacy and not feeling worthless. It felt very like heartwarming and uplifting to me. I really like that message in that part, especially because you kind of forget it in the middle of the book a little bit. It's still there, but you kind of could be convinced that, like, you're stuck in the plot, like you're worried about other things, but then at the end it wraps it all up and you're like, oh, that was wonderful, because I was kind of figured that wouldn't be important, but then it was. So I like the theming of this book a lot. They really, yes, it's two themes, but they nailed those two themes just like wonderfully. I loved it. They nailed Graystripe just perfectly. The other thing I absolutely loved about this book was that sometimes Warriors has this problem, though I feel like they're fixing that now. Especially like when Stemleaf and now Spotfur more so, and a lot of the other minor characters are getting more content. I feel like all the minor characters shine, at least the ones that need to do that. Like Thornclaw leaves right away, and so does Snaptooth and Flywhisker. I was like, it's not Thrift here, it's Flywhisker. They leave it right at the beginning, but you get time to see Flipclaw a little bit more, and I really have liked Flipclaw since he was in like A Vision of Shadows. I've loved that name. You can judge me if you want, but I thought Flipkit was adorable, and I've loved him ever since, and I've wanted him to do more. And I thought maybe when he became a Medcat apprentice temporarily, I kind of was like, oh, maybe he'll have more part, and I was happy to see that in this book he did get more content, even if it wasn't for like a lot of the book. I was still glad to see him develop and get his personality showcased and his morals. Like, he goes off with Graystripe, and yes, he's on an adventure, but he also, you can tell he does it out of a sense of duty, and I really appreciate him getting some content. I loved how a minor character was given time to shine. And also Stormfur's kits, like Feather, especially, because I think it was Feather who we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl for a long time. But I really love seeing Stormfur's kits get some time. Even if it was short, I like seeing them get some time in the book to I almost said on screen, but sorry, that was my dog. Silly dogs. But I'm glad to see that Flipclaw got some time and Stormfur's kits got some time, and I appreciated the minor characters getting attention. And of course, there's also the all important Warrior Clan kitty pets. Oh, I love them. It was actually, I was a little worried when they were like, Warrior Clan. I'm like, really? Are we serious? We're gonna go with this? And then she's like, but then Monkey Star. I love Monkey Star. She's one of my favorite minor characters that's actually been introduced to the series now. Like, as soon as I met her, I was a little bit skeptical at first. But I love her so much. She's just so enthusiastic, but also whip smart. I love her. She's so interesting, and she's like the perfect combo for a minor character. She's not perfect. But she's trying, and she's growing, and honestly, I'm like, give me my Monkey Star novella. I'd read it in a heartbeat. Give me a Warrior Clan novella. I would read it. And I didn't think I would like that, but I ended up loving it. And I love how Graystripe was, like, sometimes I get irritated when the cats are like, oh, kitty pets. And they get all, like, prejudiced, like, you can't learn the Hunter Cry. Like, Graystripe's all on board for teaching them. He's like, I'd love to teach you hunting. Even though I have to go somewhere. I'd love to do that. And I love it because it gives them all time to bond and develop and grow, and it doesn't feel like half the book's spent on Graystripe getting over some prejudice or something. That would feel out of character. It's great, and I love Monkey Star. Oh, she's wonderful. You can tell, like, right away, I wasn't even done with the book, and I did speed paint on Monkey Star because I had to draw her. She's just fun. I love her. I also really love Fang, too. I thought he was interesting. I was worried he would end up just being, like, I don't know, like, I was just like, but, like, every time a character or something was presented, I was like, oh, no, and I was like, oh, no, this is actually really good. Because I was just worried that this would go, like, the typical warrior cat type of thing, but it ended up not going that way in ways I didn't expect. Um, and oh, I just really love it. It's heartwarming book. It really is. Like that's the one word I would use to describe this book in general is heartwarming. In multiple ways, and it's fun, and it's also like complex and interesting. I would say through the whole thing, like it kept me engaged. And sometimes super editions have that. Like right in the middle of the super edition, I'll get a little bored because a topic's going on and I'm not like super engaged with that. And then they switch gears and I'm engaged again. But this one didn't do that. I think because of maybe because of the time flipping. I'm not sure, but I really was really engaged through the whole thing. Let's see what else. Oh, the Moonstone. See, that was like plot twist. I didn't actually think that was gonna happen. Like I kind of made out like my predictions in my head. And I was like, okay, this book could go like one of two ways. One, he's gonna die on the journey. Like two, he's gonna find the Moonstone, die there, and then try to like help the cats or something at the moon pool, if he could, or maybe be a ghost himself. And I had multiple different plot ideas, but basically I thought he was gonna die. Now I think he's probably just gonna end up dying in the broken code. No, but it probably will happen. Most likely, I have a feeling. Especially because I felt like there was some foreshadowing. And once again, foreshadowing and Warriors can be a little bit, like, are they really going to follow through on that? It's hard to say. But I did feel like there was foreshadowing one way or another when they rescue the kitty pets from the old lady's house. And they're all sitting there, and like the cat catcher, I guess, is outside the house trying to find them. And all the older cats kind of get up and are like, look, we can't go with you guys. We're going to sacrifice ourselves so that way you guys can go and live on and be healthy. And I was like, oh boy, that's foreshadowing. I think so. I mean, if they follow through with that, that was like perfect setup foreshadowing going on there. I was like, oh no, that's foreshadowing. I think so. But yeah. So I guess that mostly wraps up my thoughts. I love seeing Barley again. I loved, you know, like it was so sad seeing the Moonstone shatter, but I liked getting some resolution on actually it being gone. Cause I always kind of felt like, oh, the Moonstone, like, you know what I mean? Like now that it's gone, it actually feels like the old territories don't have anything left. So I guess that is like a little bit like, okay, yep, the lake is definitely the place to be. For sure. 100%. There's no going back. Ever. Because I was even wondering if that was a possibility in this arc, like if some cats would try that. But it doesn't seem to be going that way. But yeah, so I love all the minor characters. I love Graystripe's POV in this series. It was wonderful. I really, like, there was one problem with the plot switching, but I overall did really like that. I'd love to see them do it again. I think Monkey Star should get a novella. I do. I'd read it. And yeah, I love this book. I know people are going to have negative reviews on it, and that's fine. But I do, and if you didn't like it, that's fine too. I loved it. I thought it definitely surprised me in a lot of areas in ways I didn't expect to be surprised. I guess two other things I also thought were interesting. One, I really liked seeing Ashford develop in the past. Turns out he was always a jerk. Surprise! Because, let's face it, at this point, we know Ashford is the imposter. It's gonna be revealed in Darkness Within, hopefully. Unless they try to push that off again or something. But, oh boy. It's definitely Ashford, though. And, yeah, turns out he's always a jerk. If you ever doubted it was Ashford, he was always a jerk. Who was trying to run the clan and tell everyone what to do. Who knew? But I'm glad he got some development so we could at least see that. Because it felt like before we didn't see that. Now I actually buy it. He was always a jerk. And he was always trying to boss cats around. So now it makes sense. And I also really like to... like in the past, obviously, Graystripe thinks about Silverstream. But one thing I thought was interesting is he misses Millie a lot more than I expected him to. Which sounds horribly weird, I know. Because that was, that's technically his wife longer than Silverstream ever was. But one thing I really liked is that he actually has a harder time accepting Millie's death, and he thinks about her a lot more than he actually thinks about Silverstream. He thinks about Stormfur, I would say, more than Bumblestripe, but I appreciate him thinking about Millie a lot and missing her, and coming, like, you know, working at overcoming that grief as well. It was touching. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Graystripe's Vow, and if you haven't read it and still watch this video, read it. It's wonderful. It's a great read. And yeah, the characters are all really well done, and I think that's what'll sell me on about anything, is good characters. And a plot that's not, like, slogging through it, but yeah. So anyway, have a great day, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!